So last week we finished chapter 12. It's about partnership as a form of business organization. So this week we are going to study corporations as a form of business organization. So the first learning objective is identify, discuss characteristics of corporate form of organization. Okay, so what are the um, characteristics of corporation? So corporation is legal entity on its own. So it's separated from its owners. Okay. So think about this. You all know that the largest, the big, the shareholder probably owns more of the shares of Microsoft, right? It's maybe Bill Gates. It used to be him, but I don't know right now. Maybe he's the largest shareholder, right? So if Microsoft needed to sign the contract, okay, so the contract is signed by Microsoft, not by its shareholder, its owner, Bill Gates, right? So let's say if somebody used the computer sold, right, with the Windows system, um, and that something screwed up, right? And the customer wants to sue Microsoft, okay? But they are not sue the Bill Gates because Microsoft as a corporation, it is a legal entity on its own. It has his name, right? It has the inception date. So Bill Gates cannot just spend the money of Microsoft, right? So he's the owner. He's one of the owners, but he can't just spend money from the company, right? Because it's company's money, not his money. So corporation is a legal entity. You almost can think about corporation is like another person, okay? Corporation may have a purpose of making money, so that's called the profit corporation. Like Microsoft, Apple, all these big companies, right? They are making money, they are making profit, so their purpose is to earn profit. There are some other corporations, they are trying to promote certain social welfares, right? So they are not for profit organizations. So their purpose of existence of the corporation is not to make money. They have a mission. They want to promote on something, right? So for example, there is a non-profit corporation. They are teaching badminton. Okay, so that corporation is not to make money by teaching badminton. It's just the directors. They love badminton, right? They want to make it popular, make it accessible to many people, right? So then they they just set up the corporation as a not for profit corporation. Okay, and their idea is not to make money. They just want to promote the sports. Right? There's other type of different not for profit organization. Some of the not for profit organization are registered charity. So, for example, lots of the church, right? Lots of the church, they are registered charity, and the benefit of this registered charity is that people who donate to the charity, they are going to receive an income tax donation receipt. And this donation receipt is going to help the donor save on the tax dollars they need to pay to CRA. Okay, so registered charity is not for profit organization, but not all the not for profit organizations are charity. You have to meet certain criteria. Ownership. Okay, ownership. If you think about corporation, it can be a public corporation that is publicly listed at the stock exchange market. So the idea is the shares can be purchased and can be sold on the market, and the ownership of the corporation can be transferred from one to the other. So this is called public corporations, right? So you know that somebody are investing in the stock market, right? So in Canada, we have the Toronto Stock Exchange market. There are companies listed on that stock exchange market. So maybe Canadian Tire. Canadian Tire would be a public corporation, I think. Yeah. Private corporation shares are held by a few individuals and are not traded. So probably 70% or even 80% of the corporations in Canada are private corporation. Okay. So often these corporations are incorporated by one individual and sometimes it's by a family. So basically they just run the business, right? So for example, if I'm a carpenter, right? If I'm an electrician, right? And I incorporate a corporation, and then I provide the services, right, for the customers, right? So um, the corporations, okay, the corporations, um, it's often limited liability. So one of the benefit of having a corporation is because the shareholder is subject to limited liability. Okay. And often these shares of private corporations are not traded. Okay. So only the family members own the shares of the corporation. And I don't think they want to sell it to other people unless they are retiring, right? Because bringing a new shareholder can cause a lot of conflicts, right? Before it's a family. So even there are conflicts among families, right? Not even mentioned to having new unrelated shareholder. So I think people will be very hesitant when they are selling shares to another person. But that's not the case when it's a public corporation, right? Public corporations, people are trading shares all the time, right? All the time. So the limited liability of shareholders, this is wonderful. The reason for that is you are kind of protecting your own, right? Your own asset. So for example, if I prepare meals for people, okay, so I could run this restaurant under my name as an individual, okay? Or I can incorporate a company to run the business through the company, right? If I run the business under my name, so I am subject to unlimited liability. So if somebody ate my food, got sick, died, the the person's family can sue me for many money, right? And then I had to sell my house. I had to sell my house, sell my car, declare the bankruptcy, and pay everything I have to that family. Okay, so you can see, all my personal asset can be claimed by the by the family. But let's say I incorporated a company. Okay, so I do business with that using that company. So now, okay, now that business client relationship is not between me as an individual with the client customer. It actually between the company, right? The company I incorporated with that client. So if the customer sued the company, right? What's the worst scenario? The worst scenario is that company will declare bankruptcy, and the company will be gone, right? It will be terminated because they just have no money, right? They have to pay everything to the family. But guess what? What's the maximum I'm losing? So I'm only losing the money I invested into the company. But the family cannot come after me on my house, on my car, right, on my clothings. Okay, so that's the beautiful thing of having this limited liability corporation to protect shareholders' um, risk. Okay, to lose everything. Transferable ownership right. So the shares can be bought and sold. So if you think about the shares, just treat it as a capital, right? You can buy it, you can sell it. Okay. No matter who is owner, it will not affect operating activity of the corporation, right? So, so you let's say on the stock exchange market, you purchased 100 shares of Microsoft, right? So, well, the ownership right has changed, right? So you have like 50 shares of the ownership of Microsoft, but you will have no, you will not affect the operating activity of a corporation. So it doesn't necessarily mean that because you purchased 50 shares, Microsoft have to now invest into a technology at your request, right? So you will not affect the operating activity of a corporation, especially for successful operations, right? If everything went really well, right, by the previous shareholder, and now you are the new shareholder, why would you want to change anything? Because everything works really well. They make tons of money, right? The operations is very smooth, right? Why would you change it, right? What's the point? Because maybe the reason why you buy the corporation is because it's running very smoothly, right? Um, so ability to acquire capital. So corporations sometimes they need to expand their business, right? They need money, so they need to find the money from investors on the stock market, or probably raise the money from the debtor, right? Borrow the money from the loan. Okay. So I know a company. It's a IT initiative, a startup company. So they try to raise capital money to advertise their product. So over the last couple of years, they have developed a software that people can use to like order from the restaurant, right? So now that product is done. Now he is running out of money, right? Because he didn't make too much money to start with. He has to pay the expenses of the programmers, right? The software developers. So by this time, he's drained with cash, but he has to advertise his product, right? More people will know, more people will use it. We can make more money. So therefore, he has raised capital from some investors. Okay. The investors in exchange will receive the ownership, right? Like will receive the shares. Okay. Another characteristics of the corporation is that corporation is continuous, has unlimited life. Um, if you think about Disney company, right? It has been around probably for almost for more than 100 years, right? And they're still going strong, right? So even the previous owners, they passed, they died, right? But because of it's very easy to transfer the shares, transfer the ownership. So therefore, you can easily find the new owners, new investors to keep the company going. Okay. But for this is a public company, right? For private company, often the shares are owned by the family members. And you can think about when families are aging, right? Let's say you have a farmer, he's doing agriculture, and he's aging, right? He start losing energy, and he cannot take care of the job. So he probably think, okay, guess what? I'm gonna pass this business to my children, right? But then the children, they are not interested in the hard work, the lifestyle. Right? The children wants to be a lawyer, doctor, right? Wearing very clean, neat suit, right? And looks shining in front of other people and working in the top floors of a skyrocket building downtown Vancouver, right? So not everyone wants to take over the family business, right? Um, so then what are you gonna do, right? So the private company, they have to make other people aware that they are going to sell their business. Hopefully they can find a friend or some other people who might are interested in the business, right? So it's relatively hard for private corporation, but it's still doable, right? So for accounting firm, right? If you go to the website, you can see there are people are selling their shares for accounting firm, right? So they might work for that firm for 20 years. They get a lot of clients. Every year they bill $2 million. Now they want to sell that corporation the shares to you. Okay. So we call it a succession plan. If it's not a public company, private companies need to have a succession plan. How they indicate how they are hoping to pass the business to others, right? But the corporation is continuous and unlimited life as long as you can find a new owner, right?
Excuse me,
Government,
Professor.
yeah.
I'm a bit confused. What are we talking about? Because I came in late because I couldn't find the link.
Oh, this is a chapter 13. We are talking about the corporation.
Oh, corporation. Okay,
Yeah.
corporation. Thank you.
Yeah. Government regulations, right? Sometimes the corporations are subject to government regulations. There are specific laws govern the operations of corporation. If you think about opening a business, opening a restaurant, okay, in a corporation, right? The way how your kitchen should be laid out, should be constructed is it's quite complicated laws, right? So in British Columbia, right, they probably want you to have so much space, okay, for the kitchen, and then for the water sink, right? So it has to be certain size. Some of the marble panel has to be certain materials because they're concerned food may be contaminated by the tools, the work areas you are dealing with, right? So the idea is they have very sometimes they have very specific regulations in terms of how that workstation should look like, so that your food preparation processing procedures is good. So you will not bring in virus, bacteria, right, to the food. So there are different organizations. So if you don't meet these standards, they will not issue a permit. Without a food safety permit, you are not able to run the business, right? Corporations will pay tax, okay? Just like each individual of us, we have to pay tax. Corporation, almost like another individual. Each corporation has to pay corporate tax. So persons, individuals, we pay personal tax, T1, but corporations, they pay corporate tax, which is T2. Forming a corporation. So we talked about all the good things about the corporation. You have some kind of basic ideas about what a corporation is like. How can you start a corporation? This is much easier than most of people would imagine. So, for example, if you want to open a business, limited corporation in British Columbia, you just go to that website, right? Go to the website, and then if you want to have a name for the corporation, a legal name, you have to make sure that that name was not being used by another business. And you have the BC government has to make sure that the name you proposed is not too close to another existing name, right? Because in the market, if there are two names are too close, sometimes the new company may try to free ride on the reputations of the other company, right? So to protect the copyright patent of the existing company, your new company's application for name. Okay, excuse me. I'm sorry. I have a hiccup right now. So I won't say that don't laugh. So it's normal you laugh, but don't laugh too hard. Okay. Oh, so basically, you first make sure that the name you like is available for use. You don't need a name. If you said I don't need a name, the government will randomly assign a number to you for you. So you have a number company, right? Certain number, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and B.C.Ltd, right? It can be very simple. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I almost choked. Um, so when you are incorporate, you have the option to incorporate at the provincial level or at the federal level. Okay. Oh man, how should I do it? This is horrible. Um, so if you incorporate at the provincial level, then your name is protected within the province, right? So you have a name incorporated, and then nobody else can use the name in that province. Okay. But if you say, I'm going to incorporate it federally, okay, and then your name will be protected at the same scale federally, right? The point is, if let's say most of your customers, clients are living in British Columbia, okay, let's say you do massage, right? It'll be hard to imagine that you will go to Ontario to take a client to do the massage, right? So 99% of a client would be local, right? So in that way, you will incorporate a BC incorporation, right? That's a provincial corporation. But if you have a company that you have clients, customers all over Canada, you are dealing business with them. So then it's important that you have a federal incorporation. Okay. So how this can be done? You need to file articles of incorporation. Okay, you need to file articles of incorporation, providing the name, purpose of the company, and the number of shares and the kind of shares to be authorized. And you need to share more information about the location of the corporate head office and where are the records, where are the informations are going to be kept, stored. Okay, so it's not that challenging as most people would think. Okay, and so the cost in British Columbia to incorporate a BC corporation, the application fee is $350. You may do this by yourself, or you would be able to hire a lawyer or people to do this. You have to pay the lawyer. Okay. So this organizational cost must be expensed. Okay, this is your expenses. So ownership rights of shareholders. Oh, I'm so sorry. How should I deal with this? Do you guys have any special strategy to deal with hiccup? Anyone wants to help me? Okay, it's like no reaction, right? It's in front of me. It's just like all black.
You should drink
screens.
some water.
Drink some water. Oh, that's a good idea. Thank you. Oh,
I think you can hold your breath for like 10 seconds.
yeah. Okay.
But you have to look up. I think that's what.
Oh, man. Thank you. Oh, so ownership rights of shareholders. The ownership rights are in the form of shares. The more shares you owned, you have more ownership, right? You should have more say over the company, right? You are more powerful. So the ownership right can be divided into different classes. Okay, so these classes of shares are kind of specified in the articles of incorporation. This document. So each class has rights and privileges. And usually this refers to common shares and preferred shares. Okay. Shareholders have rights, and the right can be a voting right, right? Voting right. So you can to vote on certain things. And shareholders have the right for dividend. Right? Dividend is the distribution of profit. Right? That's the whole point of owning a company, right? Because that ownership will make you entitled to receive a portion of the profit. Okay, so the shareholders' right they could have voting right. That means they have power. They have some. They have a say on the company's operation, and they also can enjoy the outcome of a successful operation by receiving the dividend. Corporate management. So shareholders manage corporations indirectly through the board of directors. So if you think about Apple, right? So they probably have millions of investors, right, who have Apple stocks. So when Apple make a decision, does everyone has to gather together, right? Does everyone has to show up? Even if I only buy one Apple stock, do I need to show up, right, to make decisions for Apple? The idea is no, right? Because you have so many all over the world, right? So the idea is the shareholders will elect board of directors, okay, to let the board of directors to represent them on the board. So the board will, make decisions, right? The board will make decisions, and they will decide which people will be hired as a CEO, right? So the board has the power. So who has the power for a corporation? Is actually the board. Okay, the board are able to hire a CEO, right? The CEO is basically also just a manager, but he is like a very very wealthy manager, right? So he's not the owner, but he's like the top level management, right? Okay, so basically the board will have a say in terms of how to run the corporation, what's the policy, right? And CEO is the person who executed and performed this regulations policy daily. Okay. Profit can be either reinvested in the company or distributed to shareholders as dividend. So the company make money, right? Well, they could just give the money to the shareholder as dividend, right? You are the boss. Company is doing well. We are making money, so you should get your share. Or if the shareholders doesn't need the cash, right? The company doesn't have to issue dividend if they have excess cash. They could use the cash for further investment, right? They now have one factory. now they have enough cash. Now they can, buy another factory, right? This investment. So profit doesn't have to be all issued. If the profit are all issued as dividend, then the company should have no return earnings, right? Because you give all the earnings to your shareholder, so there's nothing left to return. So there's no return earnings. Dividend, okay, dividend is the distribution of the company's return earnings. Right? Return earnings are the cumulative earnings that belong to shareholders that were left in the corporation. Now I decide to take some money out to issue some dividend to the shareholders. Now you consider what is my return earnings, because that's how much earnings you have, and you're gonna use that money to distribute dividend. Of course, if you own more shares, right, you will get more dividend. Does anyone have any question? This is my learning objective number 1. So does anyone have any question? Please let me know.
No, all good.
For me, what is the dividend exactly?
Dividend is the distribution of profit. So company make money, right?
Yes.
And so eventually the owner would want the money, right? It doesn't matter how long they are leaving the money to the corporation as return earnings, but one day they're going to get the money back for themselves, right? So when you distribute return earnings to shareholders, that amount is called a dividend. Is that okay, Hassan?
Okay. Yeah, understood.
Good. Everyone is good with the first one.